Hey students, so this is the lesson 2, part 2 of World History 1, entitled The Legacies of Ancient Greece. So welcome back to our lesson. So, to begin with, we need to figure out or remember what is a legacy. When you say a legacy, these are traditions, skills, and knowledge, or this is traditions, skills, and knowledge of a culture that get passed on to people in the future. It's something a culture is known for. A gift from the past. For example, Martin Luther King legacies is civil rights. So, what are the traditions and skills and knowledge of this Cambodian culture as well? So that could be a legacy. Because we're talking about world history, let's dive in on the legacies of ancient Greece. So these are the legacies of ancient Greeks. For example, architecture, theater, epics, scientific method, Socratic method, philosophy, classification, Hippocratic oath, Greek mythology, like different gods, tragedy, comedy. This would be the like theater setup also. Democracy or film, that one. Marathon, democracy, later on we'll talk about that. Olympics and trial by jury. So these things actually up until now or up to this time, we have some of these things like we are doing the legacies of the ancient Greece. Earlier, I mentioned that one of the legacies of ancient Greece is democracy. So, what is a democracy? It's a government where people have the right to make decisions about leaders and laws. I should say, definitely the Philippine government is a democracy. I suppose Cambodian as well because you get to vote. But probably in terms of governance, you would feel it differently. But when you say democracy, it's a Greek word meaning power of the people. So the power lies on the people. And then only men during that time in Greece could vote. Athens has actually developed the first democracy. Now, the US government is based on Athenian democracy. As you know, they can also vote. Let's dive more on the democracy in Athens. Athens had the first democratic constitution. These are a set of rules for how the government should run. All men over 20 years old could participate in the assembly, meaning if your age is not over 20 years old, you're not able to do that. You are the lawmaking group. And each year, 500 names of citizens were drawn to be on the council of 500 who ran the daily business of Athens. The other legacy of ancient Greece is what we call a trial by jury. A trial by jury is a group of citizens, like these are group of people, decides if a person is innocent or guilty of a crime. Serving on a jury was a citizen's duty. About 500 jurors for a trial, and jurors were paid for service. And I'm not entirely sure about here in Cambodia, but what I know is this is definitely what like the style or the system of the US in terms of trial. So one of the ancient legacies of the one of the legacies of ancient Greek is the one that we call epics. These are long poems written about gods, heroes, and history of a culture. And the most famous one is Homer. And he wrote the Iliad about the Trojan War, the Odyssey about the Trojan War hero Odysseus. In the area of literature, Greece is actually the best remembered for creating the drama. Ancient Greece also has what they call Greek mythology. So when you say Greek mythology, these are stories about gods and goddesses that are used to explain events in nature. In Greek, they have 12 major gods and goddesses of Mount Olympus. Number one, Zeus. You have Poseidon, Hades, Hermes, Hera, Apollo, Artemis, Hephaestus, Athena, Demeter, Aphrodite, and Ares. So these are gods to represent different nature. You also have for the ancient Greece the thing that you call theater. They grew out of festivals dedicated to Dionysus, probably one of the leaders at that time, and developed into stories that were acted out. So plays were performed at festivals and became competitions. Only male actors but women could watch. So what actors would do, they would wear masks to show gender, age, and mood, and then theater was carved into a hillside. In the modern age, this is what we call, the cinema. But during that time, theater, like only male actors would act. Another types of plays is what we call tragedy and comedy. It's also developed by the Greeks. Tragedy, these are plays about suffering, and then comedy are plays with a happy ending that poke fun at the certain types of people. Now, you would probably know about these Olympic Games because in our modern era and nowadays, we also have these. And I believe Cambodia also would host certain event as this. So these has been developed way back in the ancient Greece, where festival held in Olympia to honor Zeus. And then every 4 years, it began 776 BC. Only men at that time could play, women couldn't watch. And then Olympians were not to cheat. They called the truce from war, won an olive wreath, and then winners were heroes. So if you win in the Olympic Games, you would also be called as a hero. So these are the different types of games during Olympic Games. We have the foot races, the javelin, the warrior race, the discus, the boxing, the wrestling, pentathlon, and the messengers and trumpeters. One of the games of the Olympic Games is what we call marathon or a foot race that is 26 miles. When you say 26 miles, I believe that is 13 kilometers. So Greeks defeated the Persians at marathon, and then this certain guy ran to Athens about 13 kilometers to announce the victory. And then he reached Athens and cried out Nike, which means victory, and fell over dead. That's probably where the company Nike is, had the idea of the name for their company. Right. In terms of architecture, when you say architecture, this is the art and science of building. So in Greek, they are well known for, or in Greece, they're well known for using three styles of columns in their buildings. First one is Doric. You would see the Ionic and then the Corinthians. Also, you would find out that the architecture, the designs of many buildings today has been influenced by the classical style of the Greeks. And that would also be the reason why many US government buildings have been built using Greek architecture. Also, the art in ancient Greece, they're very beautiful. There are carved statues throughout Greece, and that would demonstrate the belief in multiple gods and goddesses, which is what they call polytheism. If you were there back in the time in the ancient Greece, you would see a lot of statues of their gods and goddesses. Another legacy of ancient Greece is what they call philosophy. What is philosophy? Philosophy is a love of wisdom, trying to figure things out through learning and reasoning. There were three people during that time that have been known. They are Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates, he had a Socratic method, and then for Plato, political science, and Aristotle, science and logic. So, what is a Socratic method? Because that has been very influential in terms of explaining wisdom. It's a teaching through step-by-step questions that are designed to lead the student to the truth. So you have series of questions here, so you would know what is the truth. That is a Socratic method. So, who is Socrates or Socrates? Socrates was a Greek philosopher who wanted people to question and think for themselves. Athenians were afraid and threatened by his ideas, so he was tried and put to death. Now, the classification of living things, it means a system of grouping plants and animals that have similar characteristics. This is actually developed by Aristotle, and it helped scientists to handle a lot of information. And it is still used today. I'm just not sure about the Cambodian curriculum, but in the Philippines, we still use it we study the classification of living things. The same thing for a scientific method, we also have this in our curriculum in high school. Scientific method is a process used by scientists to study something. Number one, you collect info, and then the next one is you would form hypothesis, and then the last one is you will test your hypothesis. That's what scientific method is. We also have what we call a Hippocratic Oath. These are lists of rules about practicing medicine that doctors today still promise to follow. This is Hippocrates was the father of scientific medicine. What are inside the Hippocratic Oath? Honor their teachers, do their best for the sick, never give of poisons, keep the secrets of patients, and above all, do no harm. It is believed that disease came from natural causes, not evil spirits. That's what Hippocratic Oath means. They would have certain rules or list of rules about practicing medicine. And regarding astronomy, these are the, I suppose, some legacy that they had. They had the Greek astronomer Aristarchus. He argued that the Earth rotated on its axis and orbited the Sun. We have Eratosthenes showed that the Earth was round and correctly calculated in circumference, and neither theory would be accepted until almost 2,000 years later. Going back to the legacies of ancient Greece, in ancient Athens, civic duty was stressed before individual interest. So it has to be civic first, like social first, society first. And then now that you are aware of them, you will see the legacies of the ancient Greeks cropping up all over the place, like in different um, countries or different cities.